And so this book asks the question, the county sheriff, America's last hope. This came while I was watching America die last year's election with all of you. It really got to me. It really discouraged me. And I'm a person of eternal optimism. And I said there has to be some hope. And I said, and then the title of this book just flashed in front of my view. And I said, yes, of course. I've studied this for decades. I'm going to connect all the dots for everybody. Just put it in a 50-page book so you know you can read this. Yes, we sued the Clinton administration. And let me tell you honestly, I've researched this. Of all the people that sued Bill Clinton, ours was the only one on a non-sexual matter. True story. You know? Page 15 of this book makes a few other quotes from this to show the proof and evidence, the irrefutable evidence that the sheriff is responsible, that the state officers, county and local authorities are actually responsible to stop the tyranny of the federal government. Do you want to go over this with me real quick? Let's do it. It comes right from the Supreme Court. Now, I plagiarize everything. I'm just the messenger here, okay? Scalia does the same thing. He plagiarizes Madison. I plagiarize both of them. So we're all in the same plagiaristic mode. Great. I'm glad that Scalia actually quoted Madison. The great innovation of this design was that our citizens would have two political capacities, one state and one federal. That all makes sense, and we already know that, right? The next line you don't know about. And this decision has been hidden from you. Isn't it wonderful that you get to have this in your hand? Each protected from incursion by the other. So who's supposed to protect you from federal incursions? The state officers, county officers. And you don't think county? Let's move on down and we'll see. The local or municipal authorities form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. The federal government wants you to believe that they're supreme. You need to remind them. The states formed them. We are their boss. They have some assignments to do, but very limited. And in this decision, it says the federal government only has discrete and enumerated powers. Very limited. Limited, yeah. Limited by the Constitution itself and Article 1, Section 8. And if the federal government ever wants to get creative and they want to expand their role or expand their bureaucracy, what must they refer to? The 10th Amendment, the ultimate and supreme law of the land. The Bill of Rights establishing a fundamental value system that Congress and federal government employees and officials can never violate. These are the untouchables by government. If they want to expand and be creative, they must refer to the 10th Amendment. And who must remind them to do so? The states, us, the people, because anything not delegated to the federal government is reserved to the people or to the states, not to the tyrants of Washington, D.C. So let's keep going. The local or municipal authorities form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy, no more subject with them their respective spheres, it calls it spheres, to the general authority than the general authority is subject to them within its own sphere. So the county governments are no more subject to the federal government than the federal government is subject to them within their own spheres. Where do we define the federal sphere? Of course, the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Scalia emphasizes this point. This is extremely powerful. This separation of the two spheres, as he and Madison call it, is one of the Constitution's, get this, structural protections of liberty. A structural protection of liberty is that the federal government will be kept in check by state and local officials. Does it really anywhere in any moral or legal or constitutional context provide your sheriff with any responsibility whatsoever to go along with federal officials who violate the Constitution? They don't go by the Constitution, And we somehow, the sheriffs of this country, or governors, or state reps, or county commissions and county attorneys, now have some obligation to go along. Well, that's what they're hoping. But it's absolutely a lie. We stand for the Constitution. There were 2 small town sheriffs who took this all the way to the Supreme Court and proved it. And now you have the evidence in your hand. It's irrefutable. It's a constitutional decision and monumental decision by the United States Supreme Court. You can have it in your hands in just a little bit tonight. So then we ask the question in here, Sheriff, will you stand against tyranny? Could you imagine any state official, any sheriff telling you, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I can't do that. I don't have the jurisdiction to tell the IRS they can't come in here and continue to victimize the people of my county who I promised to protect and defend. Why would you want me to do that? I'm busy chasing drug dealers and DUI checkpoints and all these other things that cops are supposed to do. I'm not going to protect your freedom. What else could he do that would be more important than that? What else could your governor do that would be more important than protecting your freedom and reestablishing our country as the constitutional republic she was meant to be? Is there anything more important? Folks, if we allow the Constitution to be destroyed, is there any way the rest of the building can remain intact? That would be an impossibility. We're watching our country right now, literally, on her deathbed. She can be revived by constitutional candidates and politicians and people who know and understand that this is still America, and we're willing to risk our lives, our fortunes, and sacred honor for this holy cause, as Patrick Henry called it. You know, I've been reading the book about John Adams, and he said over and over that there is no middle way. He says if we finally lose this great and glorious contest for freedom, it will be by bewildering ourselves, groping for the middle way. With Debra Medina, there's no middle way. You know where she stands. She's on the side of freedom. She's on the side of the Constitution. And finally, when we were involved in the Revolutionary War, John Adams was asked something very deep and poignant, and I believe his answer is the same today. They said, why would we take on the greatest empire with the greatest army, with the strongest navy of any country in the world, that of Great Britain? Why would we think we could win? We should simply submit and be subjects and get along as best as we can. There's people proposing that same today. And then John Adams, and I'll tell you what, we sure owe that man a great deal, and his wife. I think Abigail Adams invented the saying, behind every good man stands a good woman. She was amazing. Even when she had a stillborn child, she would not call her husband home from his post. They were separated for over 3 years during the Revolutionary War, while he was fighting for us in diplomatic avenues in Europe, trying to make sure that we could fund the war. And when these group of people, when these people who didn't want to fight asked John Adams, why would we get involved in this fight? I ask the same to all of the people in this country and in this room today. The same question. Why would we stand? Why would we worry about fighting for freedom against such a powerful federal government? And make no mistake that the greatest threat to God-given constitutional American liberty is our own federal government. What can we do about it? We can do exactly what John Adams said then, and perhaps he was talking to us. And he gave this answer. Duty is ours. Results are God's. So my dear friends, let's do our duty and leave the rest to him. Thanks so much for having me today.